Hey guys, and welcome to the Listing Blueprint podcast. I'm Jeremy Reed. I'm creator of the Listing Blueprint, but I'm also a listing agent. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this podcast is I wanted to make it actionable steps. So if you're listening to this and you're a real estate agent, think of this like something that you can take and action right away, because that's going to be the goal. I'm not going to get too lost in theory. I want things that you can do right now. So listen to this. I never leave the podcast longer than 20 minutes and then go and action it. And if you're getting some results and you're enjoying the content, follow me. Follow me for more. I want to put more of this out because one of the things that I'm doing in 2026 is I used to have a team where I did 88% listings. And then I went down the route of being a broker, and that was great, but I just love sales. So I'm going back into sales. I'm rebuilding the team. And as I'm doing that, I need to get back onto my 6-week selling system and actually proving the model myself. So if you follow along with this and you follow along on socials, this is something that is really important to me that I think is going to be really important for everyone going forward, because 2026, we are going to get into a place where there's going to be sales, but they're not going to happen where the sellers were expecting it. That's my prediction. And so now we've got all these realtors that came in at probably the highest the market's ever been. And things are selling in like 6 days. You put a sign in the yard, it would go. You could be within 5 to 10% of your pricing and you'd sell. And that's not the case anymore. And a lot of these sellers, especially in my market, 60% of the inventory on the market isn't selling. So 40% is. And when you look at that 40%, they're trading less than they were in the past. I mean, you go back 12 months to now, it's trading a lot less. But it's taking this massive leap of faith because in their eyes, anyway, it's not. But if 60% of the market isn't selling, but they're looking at their neighbors and they're saying, well, why can't we just price $10,000 less than them? But they've been on for 163 days and they're not selling. We got a big issue. In fact, one of my listings that I'm dealing with right now, and you might have something similar, we thought we were going on, it's a condo, we thought we were going on at a good price at $469.9. And there is about 3 or 4 properties that were all within that realm. We thought we were better. And we priced aggressively based on what was on the market. Fast forward 32 days, nothing has sold in that entire complex. And now we had to have a conversation of how are we going to get ahead of this? Because almost every single listing that we were competing with has now reduced their price. And this becomes a bit of an issue because, okay, we could drop again, but we don't want to be the last ones to sell. And this is something I would definitely encourage your clients. Don't be the last one to sell. You want to be the first one, because what we're dealing with is we've got 6 or 7 listings that are on the market right now. They're reducing, meaning they're all motivated just like we're motivated. The buyers are watching this, and every level that we drop down is going to basically set a new watermark for the buyer of what's reasonable. So we're oversaturating our market, all of us at the same time. Because if all 6 of us drop by 20,000, we're all in the same positioning, but we're $20,000 less. Now we do it again. So talking with my client, now we have to look at, okay, where do we want to set the watermark on this? Because if we sell, we're going to be the first sale. Everybody's going to have to match us. And then you're going to have 5 other listings that are going to chase down to your price. But at least we got your equity out before they drop down to that price and they all resaturate. Now, how I'm positioning this with my clients, and it's been working, and I think it's the only focus that needs to actually happen, is we're not so worried about what we sell for. We're worried about what you're going to buy for afterwards. And right now, if someone were to come into our market and offer us something very strong, it could be an aggressive offer, and they said to us, hey, we're going to write an offer. There's 6 other properties that are in here. We're going to start with yours first. And if we don't get it with yours, we're going to move on to our second option and our third option. The buyers have that kind of leverage right now. They got a lot of choice. So for my seller, when I pointed that out and I said, how would we handle that? It's like, well, we'd make the deal happen. We wouldn't let them go to number 2. That's absolutely right. But we're going to be in that position as soon as we sell 2. The benefit is if we get aggressive and we interpret this market right, we're going to get out higher than the other 5 or 6 that are on the market that we're competing with. And then we're going to get to say those magical words to the next place that we buy. So we put our focus there. I've done this 4 or 5 times over the last 6 months. And the clients that are really stuck on their price, when they can see the end, they can see, okay, we're going to get ourselves in a strong position because we're not the only one experiencing this market. That's where I think some of the magic can happen. So a shift of focus is going to help immensely. The second thing I think we need to look at with these price reductions isn't so much of how much are we reducing. It's what levels are we testing when we're doing these reductions. So remember, no showings always. means the price is wrong, always. And if given enough time. All right. So this is the first concept that I want you to really get, especially if you're talking to your sellers. No showings after a reasonable amount of time means your price is wrong. And if you can have this conversation before you list it, that's where you really want to have it. Because after you go to market, they're like, yeah, okay. Now you have to back it up a little bit. But if we, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when we go to market, two things is going to happen. One, we're going to get a lot of showings. And if we get a lot of showings, that's great because we're going to get feedback. Now, of those showings, we're either A, going to get some offers, or B, not get some offers. If we don't get some offers, we're going to try to get some feedback. If we get some feedback and there's something we can fix, we fix it. But if we get a whole bunch of feedback that's just stalls, we just started looking, we're just looking for the next property, or we want to see what else is on the market, that is an indication our price is too high. Because these buyers are looking at our property, not giving us anything that we can really fix, and then saying, we're not worried about your place because we think it's probably going to be around a while. That's the interpretation. Second thing that can happen is we get no showings. And if we get no showings, now we're in the same kind of boat of why aren't we getting showings? But we can't tell whether we're getting no showings until we've gone to a reasonable amount of time. So what is a reasonable amount of time? Now, this is where you, as a real estate professional, need to interpret these markets. And it's not that complicated. But one of the things that needs to be looked at is what's called absorption. If you don't know what absorption is, imagine absorption as the amount of times that a property similar to yours will sell every single month and how often new properties are coming up. So if you think about it, like, use a wide range, because the more data, the better. We have single family homes. And in our market, single family homes between 6 and 800,000 will perform different than 800,000 to $1 million, which will perform different to 800,000 to $1 million with a suite. Okay, so these are different classes, asset classes of house that we can interpret what the absorption's like. Now, we might go into a property that's got 18 houses for sale in that 6 to 800,000 class. There's 18 houses for sale. And we go back through the last 6 months and we find that, well, you know what? On average, 6 of these will sell every single month. Well, if you do the quick math on that, if 6 are selling every single month and there's 18 on the market, assuming that no other homes come on the market, we're going to sell out of everything that we have on the market within 3 months. That would be the absorption. Now, of course, that doesn't happen because new properties are always coming on, people are adjusting, but that's a base understanding of there's 3 months of absorption going forward. Now, if you're in a market that's active like that and you price your home and you're not getting showings, a reasonable amount of time would be like 3 to 4 weeks. That's reasonable. If we're not getting showings in the first 3 to 4 weeks in an active market like that, we got to look at doing something differently. Now, if we're selling 1 a month and it's a high-end, unique type of property and there's 12 that are on the market, well, we're number one. If we want to sell within the next month, we have to be the first one of these 12. So we better be the best in show of the 12 because we're only going to get 1 buyer every single month. And if we're not getting any showings after 60 days, now a reasonable time has gone by. So these are kind of the interpretations and the expectations that can be set. And now we get into the tactical side that I want you to implement right now, where you're sitting on some listings right now. And the question is, do you reduce, do you not? So we went to market where they explained to the seller 1 or 2 things happen. You either got a bunch of showings with a bunch of feedback that you couldn't do anything with, or you got no showings. And now you got to look at, what do we do? How it needs to be explained to the seller is not, we're just dropping our price by $10,000 to try to entice buyers to come back. Because in their mind, they just lost $10,000 of equity. That $10,000 never existed because no one's willing to pay for it. So now how we look at this is not, we're dropping by 10,000. We need some new bait. We went to market fishing with the price that we went into. We didn't hit. Now we need some new bait. And that new bait needs to serve a purpose. So let's say that I'm sitting on a property and we're at 795,000. This is a real example that I did recently. And they're going, well, what do we do? Well, in my criteria, I can see that we're matched with 1,200 buyers that are working with realtors that got sent your listing when we listed it. So that's 1,200 buyers that are working with realtors. Now, in my market, that's a pretty balanced to above normal. 1,200 active buyers is pretty 800 to 1,000 would be the average. So we matched with a lot of buyers. We're not getting showings. So those buyers looked at our listings, looked at the photos, looked at the write-up, and decided, no, I'm not going to take a look. So if we go to 785,000, the message that we are sending to those 1,200 buyers is we're going to look at offers. So we're going to drop our price by 10,000. Now they're all going to get alerted that it's a price drop, and we're hoping that that's going to pull them back. But those buyers at 795 were not looking at your house. So now at 785, is a price drop going to bring them back? And if it does, what they're probably telling us is they thought we were way out of line at 795, or there was something that was catching up. All right, so what's the right move? Well, what happens at 774 now? Well, in my market, that actually bought us an extra 150 buyers, which is more than 10%, because we go by $25,000 increments. So at 775,000, we have 150 new buyers that we would match. That's pretty good bait. The other thing that does is it sends a reasonable message to the other people that were looking at us. So 1,200 people at 795 see a $20,000 reduction. That's reasonable. But 150 buyers that weren't even seeing your property now do see your property. And of those 150, they're not presumably looking above 775. So are we better than everything between 775 and 750? We went to that. We made a judgment. Yeah, we're pretty strong there. It's unique features. I think we're pretty good. So now we go to 774.9 for those two reasons. We want to send the message, and 150 of those buyers cannot buy above 775. So we're controlling our competition. We went to market, and again, no showings. Okay, so now what do we do? Well, 774.9 didn't bring them in. 764.9 sends the same message. So now we've got 1,300 and change buyers. What we need is we need a new listing. We need the new buyers. We need buyers that are not in the realm of what we're looking at. So in that case, what we did is we went 749.9. But it wasn't because I wanted to just give $25,000 away. At 749.9, we matched with almost 400 new buyers that are not looking above 750,000. And that's the key point here. At 750,000, and your MLS probably has the same stats, buyers that aren't looking above that are only looking below that, meaning that we just look at what's below that. And for 400 buyers, and on MLS, this is like a clear thing. So just because 400 buyers are working with realtors, how many are on MLS that are looking under 750? That's a massive amount of buyers that we are controlling our competition with. They will not buy above that 750,000. So we made that adjustment. This would be called the step down pricing strategy, and we got action. So did the seller feel as we were doing that we gave $45,000 away? No, we are trying different strategies. That's all we are. We're strategists. We try to interpret the market the best we can. Was I off by 45,000? I don't think so, because we made adjustments as we needed to. But I couldn't have gotten them there without collecting the data. Now, in hindsight, I could have just started at 749.9, but it had such unique features that I'm not sure that that was the right move for this listing. Now, it might have been. And that's one thing that we don't get back is, looking at it again in this scenario, if I had the same unique features, I probably would have started lower because we probably would have got a multiple offer. But with the data that I had, I made the best scenario that we could. We looked at all the comparables together and we made a decision, and he was happy with it. And I was happy with it when it was all said and done. But we need to go through that process. So that's it for listing adjustments. Hopefully there's a few nuggets in that. If you have any that are holding on, that just aren't selling right now, I really push you to call them this afternoon. Call them after this podcast and just say, hey, I was thinking about it. I was listening to a podcast if you want. And I was thinking about the fact that we're not getting any showings, and it bothers me. It bothers me because in this market, we are in an active market. Yeah, it's a little bit suppressed, but I know you guys want to move. You want to get to your next place. And the fact that we're not getting any showings bothers me. I know the marketing's good. I know the photos are good. I think we need some new bait. So what are you guys' thoughts about looking at this again? Maybe coming up with another price, trying to move things forward, because I know you want to move. And here's the beautiful part. Right now, XML, 60% of the market isn't selling, and we're seeing a ton of price reductions. So there's a lot of sellers that are antsy, and as we're going into the winter months, I know they want to move. So if we can nail this price strategy, we can get you guys out early, because the market will probably slow down more as we go into Christmas. And then as we get into these months and the sellers get a little more antsy about them selling, we're going to be in a very powerful position to walk in, let them know that we've got 5 other options, but we decided to write on theirs first. And at that point, whatever perceived equity that we think we might be losing in your home by getting our price down, we can gain on the back end by just going in real strong. And that's where I can shine. But I need us to sell. I need to get you into that position first. And then I can focus on getting you the deal so that this all levels out for you and it ends up being a good move. All right, guys, go out and action it. And if you're looking at focusing on listings in 2026, you've got the link below. Follow me and also buy the listing blueprint. I've got it on for $295. It's 10 years and $100,000 that I spent in refining the process. It's going to help you take a seller from intake right to keys delivered. It's 90 something steps, but every module is crafted and has tools that go with it to help you run the system. So if you can run the system and then check in on the podcast, it's going to make a lot of sense. You're going to notice that your listing is going to sell a lot faster. They're going to sell for more. You're going to have happier clients because this process, I can tell you, is not taught step by step in this industry. It took me a while to put it all together, and for $295, you can go get the whole thing. And then this podcast will make a lot more sense. So do that. Follow me for more. Let's keep going.